Hi friends, Mindy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be decorating this Tim Holtz folio. I am participating in the Christmas Botanical Challenge, which is hosted by Michelle at the Junk Journal Studio. This video actually should have gone up on Monday, and I apologize. Life has just been so crazy around here, but I wanted to go ahead and get this done. So this is actually going to be a two-part series. I will not be able to get all of this done in this first video here, but I am going to just start off and try to do the base of this little folio. There's so many ways that you can do this and kind of change it up and make it interactive, and that's what I loved about this little folio. So I started off with just adding some distressing to all of the edges. I used some ground espresso archival ink for that. I did that on all of the folds. I even, on the outside, on the inside, all the way around. And then because this is basically almost like a file folder, there are some secondary scoring lines that you can do if you want to. And I did go ahead and fold those, so it gives you maybe like a half an inch of a section in there just to give it some room to bulk up a little bit. So I went ahead and folded that ahead of time so that I could, it wouldn't wrinkle the paper and that kind of stuff. But what I'm going to be doing is using some of the Junk Journal Studio printables here. These are the ones that go along with the challenge. And so these are the Christmas ones. And I'm going to be just covering this entire folio. And I'm going to do each panel in a different way, and so that I don't have to deal with like kind of going over the folds, having it bunch up, and all of that. I just feel like it's going to be easier. And I also want to keep a little bit of the integrity of that folio. So I'm going to cut these pieces down just slightly smaller than the little section that they're going into. And then I will also add distress ink around each of the little panels as well before I glue it down. But that's why I went ahead and just inked the base part of this folio first. That way everything is already distressed, and then if there's an area where maybe I didn't cut it straight or something like that, it won't be as obvious because it's already nice and distressed in there. So I'm using my Yoo-Hoo glue stick for this because I like to have really good coverage when I'm doing something like this. So I just cover the entire back of it, you can see here. And then I'm just going to go through and do all of these panels. I'm not going to make you watch me do each one of those, but you kind of get the idea. And I'm just measuring one at a time as I go because they're all a little bit different. And even the section on the inside, you could leave that. I think I'm going to make a pocket out of that, but you could make it a little flip out, and just lots of different ways that you could do this. I probably need to find some more of these because they're just a lot of fun. So I went through here and covered each of the sections. You can kind of see. I also glued this one that's this kind of corner pocket. The base part I glued down, and then when I added my paper from the Junk Journal Studio, I actually added that as a secondary pocket. So there's two pockets over there. And this green paper that I'm using, this is actually from the Botanical Collage and Cluster Mega Pack. This is part of the challenge. And so this is from the neutral, or the base set. So this is the green and neutral, and I love the greens that are in here. I think they're going to work really well with this. And so you can see over here on the right, I've also pulled some of those ephemera pieces that I feel like will go well with this little Christmas themed journal that I'm going to be working on. So I needed to trim this down. I'm just tearing it. And then I am actually going to put this on some coffee dyed paper as well. I'm just going to make a journaling card out of this, but I liked how it was kind of sticking out there. So again, I'm just going to glue this to some coffee dyed paper. Of course, you could leave it, and it would just be white on the back, or if you had it double-sided printed, then that would be even better. And then I'm going to just very slightly round the corners on here using my corner rounder. Again, I'll ink everything up. I'm pulling one of these ephemera pieces from that same Collage and Cluster Mega Pack, and then I'm going to use an ephemera piece here from the Christmas ephemera. So in the last video that I did last week, I shared all of the printables and everything, and of course all that website can be found, or all of that information can be found at the Junk Journal Studio. But and if you are participating, be sure to use the hashtag so that we can follow you. Be sure to share what you're doing in the Facebook group as well. And it's just been a lot of fun to see everybody's creativity using these kits. So, and there's also a chance for you to win free printables. So be sure to be following along with all of that. So I'm just starting off with this first piece here. Again, just kind of gluing that up in the top right-hand corner. And then I love this piece on this card. I think it looks, I just love this piece with the kind of the little scene in the background in the church and everything. And I put it down and it was very sideways, very crooked. So I had to quickly pull that up and redo that. Fortunately, I was able to pull it up because this wasn't the heaviest weight paper, but I think that the greens work really well together from this. And then I needed just a little bit more adhesive over here on this section, and then I had to trim it off just a little bit down at the bottom where it was overhanging. I want to make sure that everything is glued down really well because it's going to be sliding in and out of that pocket. So again, just going through this with some archival ink and ground espresso, and then this is just going to slide right into my little pocket with whatever else ends up getting added in there as well. And then I'm also pulling in some Tim Holtz stickers here from his, I think that his Christmas collections work so well with these, and he has these long sticker strips, and I'm just doing a different one on each of these panels that I was talking about earlier because it was just easier than trying to trim a piece of paper to fit down in there, and these were just the absolute perfect size. So I'm just adding one different one to each of these sections here. I had thought about making this into like almost a journal and maybe even adding a little signature in here. I still might do that, and I will just punch right through using an awl right through there. I'm not worried about that, even though there's a basically sticker on both sides. It should be fine if I decide to do that, but there's a few decisions I will save for next video. And then I'm going to take this piece of ephemera here as well and put it on some coffee dyed paper. I really loved this one. I'm just going to make a beautiful journaling card. So because it has a nice frame, I did round the corners just ever so slightly with my corner rounder there. And I will use this ephemera piece. And I know that this is, it's meant, it like reads sideways, but it's a journaling card. And so I feel like, you're going to be pulling it out and turning it anyway. So I'm not as upset that, the part that says Merry Christmas is actually sideways, if that makes sense, but it doesn't actually bother me. I really like how it looks on this journaling card. I am adding just a little bit of ground espresso in some of those more intricate places between the greenery where the paper is white, just to mask that just a little bit. So I just kind of gently went over the top of all of that with that same ink that I did to the edges, and it just kind of hides all of the little white pieces. Certainly you could go in with an X-Acto knife if you wanted to and trim all of that out, but I did not. I just kind of just pretended, I guess. I just masked it off a little bit with using that ink, so I don't think it's too noticeable. And then I'm going to, again, make sure everything is glued down really well. I'm going to add just a little bit more here, and then again, because it's going in and out of this pocket, I need to make sure everything is adhered really well. So that will go in the back part of that pocket. And then this other piece, this red piece that I have just put in there, that is from the Botanical Collage and Cluster Pack, the red add-on kit. And I will make that into a journaling card as well. But I also want to add some of these words here over on my little tuck spot side pocket over there on the right. That one just says poinsettia. And I just liked how it looked there because it's a vertical word, which there's not a lot of the tags out there that are like that. And so I really love the vertical words that she has. And then I want to also add a little pocket to this part that flips down, but I'm keeping the pocket pretty tight. So I'm gluing it down, pretty solid. And I will just add another piece of ephemera. So the part that I glued down again is from the red botanical kit. And then I added a Christmas, one over the top of that. And then here I added another piece from the ephemera, but I feel like you could even have probably glued this down as another pocket and just given yourself a lot of layers there. But I went ahead and just glued it down. I will add something else to that pocket here in a second, but I want to make this piece of ephemera into a journaling card as well. I thought about making it into a tag, but since the other ones were already journaling cards, I just did that one as a journaling card again, just rounded the corners, inked up the edges, and then I will add this beautiful bell here over on the top left side of this. And I really love all of the digitals that have like just charts and like just numbers in the background, because it just adds a lot of interest without competing with whatever focal point you're putting on there. And then I felt like I needed something down in the bottom to balance that out a little bit. So I'm pulling out those same Tim Holtz stickers. And I started out with this one that says Peace on Earth, but it came over just a little bit too far. I have it pretty much lined up on the right side, but it was just, I don't know. I just didn't like how the balance of that was. So I'm going to go for another sticker that's just a little bit shorter in length. I don't know why that it just needed to be a little shorter in my mind. So I changed that up. And then I also added a sticker that's red on top of this green piece over here that just says Peace on Earth, just to add a little something in that little corner side tuck pocket. And then I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with that back panel. And then there's also the insert, that's that like Z fold accordion situation that I will deal with all of that in the next video. So this is kind of what it's looking like so far with my little journaling cards and everything. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All my links and everything will be down in the description, and stay tuned for part 2. Until next time, bye.